broadcasting around the world. This is the Hard Asset Money Show. Your wealth, your money, your future. Serious talk about what's happening and how you profit. Hosted by Christian Briggs. Follow him on X at BMC_HAM. Live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to The Real Story. I'm your host, Riley Lewis. Thank you for joining us. Is it a bold step toward bolstering innovation in modern America? Is it a form of government overreach? And will it set the stage for economic prosperity? These are just a few of the questions about a major new development in the business world that could vastly reshape America's tech sector. On one hand, it could bolster America's economic edge, leading to job creation and innovation. But on the other hand, it could also set a concerning precedent for the country. And that brings us to today's top story. The Trump administration now owns 10% of Intel. Founded by Gordon Moore and Robert Noyce as Integrated Electronics way back in 1968, Intel is one of the world's largest semiconductor manufacturers. The company has pioneered all sorts of important advancements in the most important technologies that we use today. Designing, developing, manufacturing, and selling a wide range of computing products, ranging from CPUs to microprocessors. And historically speaking, the company has been a dominant force. First, they revolutionized computing by inventing the world's first microprocessor. Then they set the standard for the world's first personal computers. And they've even expanded their reach all over the planet, having roughly 121,000 employees to date. They've also been renowned for their explosive growth, generating more than $53 billion in revenue in 2024 alone. However, despite reaching world-changing milestones all along the way, the company is facing some significant challenges. For example, the revenue dropped significantly between 2021 and 2024, leading to substantial net losses. They've also seen major workforce cuts, and the company plans to cut a total of 25,000 jobs by the end of this year. Then, on top of it all, rising competition from power players such as AMD and Nvidia is threatening its place in the market. So now, at a time of crisis, the Trump administration is taking a keen interest in the company. And on that note, he first announced the news about this arrangement in a Truth Social post on Friday, writing this: "It is my great honor to report that the United States of America now fully owns and controls 10% of Intel, a great American company that has an even more incredible future. I negotiated this deal with Lip-Bu Tan, the highly respected chief executive officer of the company. The United States paid nothing for these shares, and the shares are now valued at approximately $11 billion. This is a great deal for America and also a great deal for Intel. Building leading-edge semiconductors and chips, which is what Intel does, is fundamental to the future of our nation. Make America great again. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Interesting, especially given the timing, because just weeks ago, the CEO of Intel was fighting for his company and his job. In fact, President Trump even said he must resign in a different Truth Social post about 3 weeks ago. And this demand was made in connection to allegations that Tan had allegedly invested in companies that are tied to the Chinese military, a claim which he vehemently denied. But now, fast forward to today, and Trump is giving him a lifeline. Isn't that interesting? What a strange turn of events. But what's also interesting here is that it's not Intel's first lifeline. Just last week, Japan's SoftBank pumped in $2 billion to attain a 2% stake, a move which is seen as a vote of confidence in their ability to remain relevant in semiconductor production. So now the US government is giving them relief too, with an investment of nearly $9 billion, funded through the CHIPS and Science Act and the Department of Defense's Secure Enclave program. It involves purchasing 433.3 million shares at $20.47 each, giving the government a 9.9% ownership without any board seats or governance rights. Which is a huge move, by the way, and one that raises some very urgent questions. For instance, is this really about helping Intel reclaim its dominance? Or Is this a strategic effort to safeguard national security in an era where computer chips are more powerful and potentially more dangerous than nuclear weapons, fueling everything from smartphones to military hardware? Then there's also the question about whether or not it's the place of government at all to intervene in business. So here with his answers to those important questions is Christian Briggs, the CEO of Hard Asset Management. Christian, thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me. This is a good one. I like this topic.
It is, and there are so many mixed reactions online. Some people love it. Some people are really disturbed by it. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts about it, Christian?
Well, let's start at the top and talk about the good things, okay? Let's talk about the things that are going to strengthen national security. Now, I know Congressman Thomas Massey has been a little bit vocal about it, and there's been some other House members, and obviously there's been some senators. And Republicans, too, are questioning this. There's some love it, some hate it. But let's talk about the positives first, okay? Because anything of this nature, when you've got public, which is obviously government investing into private, there has been some things in the past that have created a little bit more of a de facto fascism or a little bit more of a socialistic, capitalistic marketplace. So let's talk about the positives first. The one thing I love about this deal is that it ensures Intel's foundry operations will remain in the United States. With the new fabrication and manufacturing facilities that are being built out in Ohio and Arizona, the deal diminishes U.S. reliance on Asian chip production as well as Taiwan production in case of, hear me out on this, we know that China at some point will attempt to take Taiwan back. Now, the bets are off. Is it tomorrow, next week? Who knows? We don't know, but it's going to happen. The warrant for an additional 5% stake of Intel's foundry controls drops below 51% further, which safeguards U.S. control over strategic assets. So it's a good deal. But here's what I really like about it. Forget the parts I just said, even though they're good. Here's the real value proposition. It hurts China's strategy to dominate the world supply chain through its own semiconductor push, which they're doing very aggressively. And it gets U.S. gets an equity stake for its investment, so there's money to be made. Now, it also strengthens the U.S. position in the global chip race against China, which I thoroughly love. Now, we talk about some downside. Are you ready for a little bit of that?
Yes, please.
Okay. In the past, and we've seen this before, especially now when you look at the various, I would say, mechanisms. I'm kind of searching for the right words here so I can be very delicate and sensitive to the deal. The foundry is not profitable. So Intel is not a profitable company by the same measure of NVIDIA or AMD or even ARM, which obviously is a big company that was backed by SoftBank. Now, I love the fact that SoftBank did take a $2 billion position in this thing. So they obviously put a lot of faith in the Intel integration of next generation chips. The U.S. equity stake tied to market performance. So if you look at the president of the government overreach in private industry, it is a president. So there is going to be some pushback because should the government been the investor, or should private equity have come to the table and the president, or let's just say the government in general, negotiate, or at least certainly try to solidify a deal that makes sense? Because this resembles socialism, or what they call excess state control, which potentially deterring private investment in the U.S. in both technology firms can be wary of government influence. And just about an hour ago, prior to being on your show here, there was the CEO of Intel has already acknowledged there has been tremendous pushback in the international community of chip buying to where Intel may not have the same sales supply chain because there's a lot of governments and companies within these territories, whether it's excess in Europe or South America. Dude, they just don't like Trump. So they'll just not buy the chips, which is ludicrous when you think of the value proposition. And so those are the positives and some goods, but I'm going to say this. If I was a guy putting money on Intel, I'd bet, because I think this is going to end up being a fabulous deal.
Okay, so to sort of reiterate here, you think the pros outweigh the cons in terms of this deal?
Oh, there's no question about it. Provided, now listen to me,
please.
Provided that we try to minimize the aggressive ownership in these companies, because the president has made it clear, and we've already invested. Look at the mining operations, of one company. You've got other tech firms. You've got other really strategic firms that do a play within our national security.
Yes.
I call it the community of national security that we got to protect. I will say this: you don't want the United States getting into that area, that gray area of near majority or majority, because now you're talking about nationalizing
Yes.
individual companies, which could lead to individual industries. And here's the other thing. You get another Obama-style mentality, okay, inside that White House or Congress or both, you're going to have pure communism, because we all know that Barack Obama is not a capitalist.
No.
He's not even a hardcore socialist.
No, he's a communist.
He leans so far left
Yes.
that one time Putin once said the U.S. is actually more communist than the Soviet Union was ever. So that's an area that we got to be careful, because the slippery slope is this. It's easy to spend that kind of money when you have it. It's hard to restrain yourself when you have it.
Yeah, very well
That's
said.
the key.
No, and we talk about the slippery slope all the time, but we've seen what's happened in America in the last 10 years. Everything has moved to the left so quickly. It's going toward communism, Marxism. Look at Zoran Mamdani in New York City. He wants the government to run grocery stores. So when people like Congressman Massey come out and say, well, we don't even want to set the stage for that. This is a very dangerous thing. I think that's overplayed a little bit, but there is some truth to that opposition, so I get it. I think you've made a very compelling argument, though, for why this is a step in the right direction. You've swung me, Christian, admittedly, so I hope that you're right about that. But in the meantime, thank you for providing some insight into this very complicated issue, and I think we're going to hope for the best here.
We are going to hope for the best. Like I said before, if you can restrain yourself
Yes.
from having too much of any one company or any one industry, and you're providing a value-added service, not just the money, but potentially supply opportunities to supply more Intel chips to not just the domestic market, but the international market, you're going to come out on this thing on the top. However, if we start to make this thing the new go-to factor, where we start looking at banks, airlines, technology companies, mining and manufacturing, which has now been, as far as today goes, that's what's been said. There's been now clear evidence that the administration plans on doing this on multiple levels, multiple companies at multiple industries. If we start becoming the precursor to what Mussolini did in Italy when he was called a fascist, then what we're going to have is, what's the difference between a fascist and a communist? It's just a word. It's just a word. Because you know what I'm saying? It's just a word.
Oh, completely.
It's what's between socialism and communism? Nothing.
Absolutely.
What's there between fascism and communism? Nothing. It's just a fancier way of saying public to private ownership, and then public becomes the majority. I'll give it one last thing here, and I appreciate the time.
Go ahead.
I remember reading, I was so close about the Federal Reserve and the Treasury being created in 1913 under Woodrow Wilson, who was a self-proclaimed socialist communist. That's a fact. President Wilson was, in fact, a socialist communist, which led to FDR coming into office, which he also was the same.
Yep. Yes.
What I noticed was the way they try and talk about different programs as being enlightenment, helpful, efficient, and safety. The IRS was formed in 1913. He said there will never be a tax rate above 3%. How'd that work out? The Federal Reserve was also enacted under the same pretense. The Federal Reserve will never be involved in political influence of any kind. FDR, Social Security, the new big deal, will never be above the percentage rate and will always have at least 10 to 12 people paying for the single one. None of that was true. Yeah. None of it. Because when you look at government, it's inherently corrupt.
Yes.
It's like a child who's 2 years old. You don't have to teach a child to lie, to steal, to cry, to complain. You have to teach them wrong is wrong and right is better. You got to teach them right, because the wrong is already built in, sinful nature.
Yes.
If this deal expands beyond what is the measure of something of equitable participation, where government is a passive investor, passive, and they don't go to a proactive or an active investor, if they do that, we have problems. And now we've hit the communist road to literally, look at the Genius Act.
No,
we already know
course.
the Genius Act is programmable money by corporations. I'm not so sure this, let me put it this way, this has to work.
Okay.
It has to work, period.
Okay. Only time will tell if it does, but I think you're right about that completely. So thank you for your time today and your insight into this, Christian. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my brother. I'll see you again soon.
Coming up next, a U.S. Army veteran joins us in studio to discuss the current status of the Russia-Ukraine war and the Trump administration's fierce efforts to finally end it. More details after the break.
Gold has nearly doubled in just 5 years, rising from $1,700 an ounce in 2020 to over $3,300 today. That's a 95% gain, outperforming the market and proving why gold is the ultimate long-term hedge. As global debt soars and currencies weaken, central banks are hoarding gold at record pace. Why aren't you? At Hard Asset Management, we offer award-winning service and fast, secure delivery. Call 844-426-4653 or visit bmcham.com. Protect your future with real assets. Own gold now. Follow on X at BMC_HAM for all news and the latest developments.